welcome to NFL GridironSteady Week 4 recap. This episode is sponsored by nobody. Now, today we're going to recap Week 4. I know I'm about a day late. We were supposed to do this yesterday, but things get hectic around here. Now, the Bills look like they're back. Maybe we underestimated Buffalo a little bit. We're about 25% into the season, so the Bills look like they're going to be still good. And how about San Francisco? Christian McCaffrey, the best offensive weapon in football. This guy does everything. He's just unstoppable. Now, we already knew he was good. We thought he was the best back in the league, but this guy's taking the running back position to another level. He's by far the best back in the league. By far. I mean, it's not even close. Like, there's no other running backs in football that is close to the dominance of Christian McCaffrey. He's the single reason why San Francisco may end up in the Super Bowl. Now, I didn't give San Francisco enough credit in the offseason. I said that I didn't think they would be that good. I thought Brock Purdy was overrated, but he's doing his job. He's not turning the ball over, which is a very, very big deal in the NFL to win games. And Christian McCaffrey is carrying the load. He is the stud, and that defense is pretty good. So, let's do a recap. Let's start off with, we know Thursday night, the Detroit Lions. Let me see if I can go back here for a second. Detroit Lions, hold up. That was on Thursday. What was that, the 28th? Yeah. Detroit Lions, 2-touchdown victory over the Green Bay Packers in Green Bay, which was a big victory, as David Montgomery ran all over the Lions. And now the Lions are now 3-1, and they take a commanding lead in the NFC North. Now, I will say this, because Jared Goff did what he had to do. I mean, he was sacked a couple times. He did throw an interception, but how about David Montgomery? 32 carries, 121 yards, 3 touchdowns on the ground. This guy was all over the place. Also had 2 catches for 20 yards to lead. So the running attack for the Detroit Lions did a lot of damage against the Green Bay Packers. And that was the defining moment. Now the Packers, Jordan Love sacked 5 times. Now remember, previously last week, Green Bay they were down like 17. They came back and won the game. No comebacks this week as Green Bay loses at home. And they fall to 2-2. Not in the bad spot. It's still pretty good. But Detroit, who we had as a good team, one of many, not that many people had Detroit being this good this year. We did. So we take credit for that. If I'm going to take blame for underestimating Buffalo and San Francisco, I'm definitely going to take credit for Detroit. Just saying. So that game, that was Thursday night. We know what happened there. Now let's get to Sunday, shall we? Let's start with the Jaguars. This game was up in London. Jaguars bounced back. I was starting to get worried for a second there, because if the Jags would have lost this game, it would have been some real big trouble. I didn't think that Desmond Ridder was going to beat Jacksonville. Jags win, and they win pretty good, 23-7. And this is a big win because Jacksonville now 2-2 in the AFC North South. Third place. They had to get this win. This was like a must win. You got to win these kind of games, especially after the way you played in the last couple weeks. Their defense stepped up. They forced 2 interceptions, 4 sacks on Desmond Ridder. And that's good. Good for them. Bijan Robinson, though, this guy continues to be a stud. I know everyone's talking about other offensive players, but Bijan Robinson, 14 carries, 105 yards, 7.5 yards per carry. This guy continues to run the ball. He has to be one of the best backs in the football right now. 5 catches also for 32 yards. So this guy is stepping up as a legitimate threat on the ground. Is he a top 5 back in the league right now? I don't know. It's debatable. As a rookie, I think he's the offensive rookie of the year. Some people are saying C.J. Stroud. Come on. B.J. Robinson's been better. He's been better. Stroud hasn't been great all year. He's had good moments, but I think Bijan Robinson's been better. This guy's averaging, this is 7.5 yards to carry. This is what he's been doing so far this year. Let's look at his stats. 105 yards against Jacksonville, which Jacksonville has a solid run defense. Not bad. Also, let's look at his now Detroit, he didn't do much there last week, the week before. 10 carries for 34 yards, but at versus Green Bay, he had 124 yards and 6.5 a carry. And he's been 5.5 a carry, over 5 yards a carry for most of the season, which is pretty damn good for a running back, especially a rookie running back. And not only that, he's also catching passes out of the backfield, right? 6 catches against Carolina, 4 against Green Bay, 4 against Detroit, and this past week 5 against Jacksonville. So he's doing a lot for Atlanta. He's multitasking. I think he's the offensive rookie of the year. But so that's that. Jacksonville, Trevor Lawrence, 23 of 30, 207 yards, sacked twice, 1 touchdown. Didn't throw any picks, but he did enough to keep them in the game and to win. You don't turn the ball over, you win games. Now, he also had 8 rushes for 42 yards, so that's also good. So he did a little bit of a few things. Spread the ball around to Kirk, Ingram, Ridley. Ridley had the 1 touchdown on the ground, in the air. And I guess the defense must have scored the other ones because I don't see any touchdowns from anybody else on offense. So the Jacksonville Jaguars defense was the sole, did most of the damage in that game. That was a London game, by the way. I did not get up at 9 o'clock in the morning to watch that game. So, all right, let's move on. The Cincinnati Bengals. Now, they're in trouble. The Bengals are in trouble. Luckily, they won last week. They would be 0-4 right now. Instead, they're 1-3. They lost 27-3 to Tennessee. And it might be time to sound the alarm in Cincinnati. I'm going to say it right here, right now. We had the Bengals not only going to the Super Bowl, but winning the Super Bowl. And right now, I could say after week 4 weeks into the season, I know it's early to say this, but I can make this call officially right now. The Bengals will not end up in the Super Bowl. They just won't. They are in trouble. They are in deep, deep trouble. And I'm not counting them out of the playoffs yet, but Super Bowl, they're done. They're done with that. Joe Burrow, 20 of 30, sacked 3 times. Didn't throw a touchdown at all in this game. Joe Mixon, 14 for 67 on the ground. Jamal Chase had a decent night, 7 for 73. Not great, but okay, on 9 targets. And T. Higgins also got hurt at some point. I don't know if he's still out. He had a rib injury. And they're saying he's not ruled out. He's not ruling himself out for week 5. That was as of yesterday. So we'll find out. He has a rib fracture that was reported 2 days ago. But he still thinks he can play in week 5. So we'll see if he plays. It's unfortunate for the Bengals because they started to build this team up to the point where they were knocking on that door for a Super Bowl, and now key injuries are starting to happen. It's like the Bengals are cursed, right? It's like the Bengals are cursed. Unfortunate, because I thought this was their year. It just sucks. That's how sports is, man. It's so unpredictable in many cases. Let's move on. We got the Rams and Colts. Rams took care of business in overtime against the Colts, and Stafford overcomes injury, throwing game-winning TD. That game-winning TD was amazing. That was a good play in overtime. And Puka Nacua, that kid is good. That kid can play. I know I probably said that wrong, Puka Nacua, but that kid can play, man. He had a big game too. 10 targets. He caught 9 of them for 163 yards and a touchdown, the game-winning TD. And this kid, remember, they still don't have no Cooper Kupp yet. This Cooper Kupp has been out. So Puka Nacua has stepped in as, is he the number 1 receiver? I guess technically he's number 1 on the depth chart. This guy's been playing. He's been balling. This Puka Nacua guy. He's been balling. Right? 9 for 63. Last week he was 5 for 72 at Cincinnati. The week before that, against San Francisco, he was 15 catches for 147 yards. Right? And then at Seattle, 10 for 119. This guy has been putting up some monster numbers. If you got him on fantasy, you're probably happy. Because that's what he's doing. I mean, the numbers are crazy. So this guy is becoming a stud for the wide receiver. 22 years old. From Provo, Utah. He went to BYU. Is he the next star wide receiver in NFL? He's becoming a really good weapon for Matthew Stafford, who went 27 of 40 for 319 yards, a touchdown, 1 interception, sacked twice. Also had 2 carries for 14 yards. So keep an eye on that Nacua kid. He's good. For the Colts, let's see what they did. Now, I was watching this game a little bit, and I was wondering, because you got to remember, the Rams had a lead here, right? If I'm not mistaken, the Rams were up until the fourth quarter. They nearly blew the game. So Anthony Richardson, Walmart Cam Newton, nearly brought them back. And Richardson was terrible. He didn't turn the ball over, but 11 for 25 for 200 yards, and this guy had the Colts back in this game. Now, it was because of the run game, obviously. Richardson was 10 for 56 on the ground, as well as Zach Moss had 18 carries for 70 yards. So they was able to get back in the game by running the football somehow. Typically, when you're losing games and you're getting blown out, you typically get back in the game by throwing the ball. But in this case, the Colts were able to get back in the game on the ground. So, really weird. But the Rams nearly blew the game. So it wasn't perfect for the Rams, but they did get it done in overtime. Because let's face it, the Colts are not a good team, and they should not be in these games. But for some reason, they have been in these games, and they shouldn't be. Colts should be 0-4, but somehow they're 2-2, or at least 1-3. But they're not a good team at all. They're just not. So don't get fooled. They're much worse than their 2-2 record. So that's that on the Rams and Colts. Let's go down to the Saints and Tampa Bay. How about that? Tampa Bay, 3-1, first in the NFC South. They got another division win under their belt, which was very important. 26-9 over the Saints. Baker Mayfield, 3 touchdown passes. And as the Buccaneers, Baker Mayfield, 25 of 32, 246, 3 touchdowns, and 1 pick. Also, 8 carries for 31 yards for Baker Mayfield. Chris Godwin led receivers with 8 for 114 on 11 targets. So, how about Tampa Bay, guys? Jameis Winston, for some reason, did he get hurt? Or was he benched? I don't know. Winston played and didn't play. I don't know what's going on with that back and forth there. It's kind of confusing, to be honest. But Derek Carr did play. 23 of 37, 127 yards, sacked twice. I mean, he's not playing well at quarterback either. The Saints, who people thought would be pretty decent, they lose a game. They're now 2-2. So that's that. Looks like Baker Mayfield might have landed in the right spot because the Bucs are still pretty good. They're actually playing better than they did last year, even with Tom Brady at moments. Next up, let's go with the Washington Commanders, who gave the Eagles everything they had. They did. I mean, this was one of the better games, especially in that second half. I mean, man. But the Eagles go to 4-0 as these tough division games. I told people, big point spreads, division opponents, you always typically, these games are going to be closer than you think. The Eagles were 7-point favorites in this game on our spread. I know in some spreads they were larger. Eagles were like 8.5 in some areas. So, but this game was close, right? It was 8.5. We had them at 7, but in some places they were 8.5. But either way, Eagles only won by 3 in overtime. It looked like for a moment that the Eagles were going to win outright, right? They had but second half, Washington scores 2 touchdowns in that fourth quarter. Eagles had 10 themselves, but they go to overtime, and then the Eagles win on a field goal, 54-yarder. So what a good game that was. And Sam Howell, 29 of 41, 290 yards. He was sacked 5 times. He did have 6 rushes for 40 yards on the ground. So that's that. Terry Scary, 8 catches for 86 yards on 10 targets. And Samuel has 7 receptions for 51 yards on 8 targets. So their top receivers doing some good stuff there. For Philadelphia, for the Sheagles, 25 of 37 for Jalen Hurts for 319 yards, 2 touchdowns. He was sacked 3 times. He rushed for 34 yards on 9 carries. So the Eagles, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith had pretty good games. I mean, A.J. Brown had a big game. 13 targets, 9 catches for 175 and 2 touchdowns for A.J. Brown, who's becoming a really good weapon. So Eagles 4-0 on the year. Are they the best team in the NFC, though? Some people say no. Some people say yeah. Is it between them, Cowboys, and San Francisco? San Francisco might be the best team right now in the NFC, but the Eagles are not far behind, depending on who you ask. Next up, we got the Minnesota Vikings, right? The Vikings had a hard time with the Panthers, but they pulled it out. They got the win. They seemed to struggle a bit in the first half with the Panthers. Panthers are now 0-4 as they continue to lose games. As they should. They're not a good team. They're going to probably get a top pick. I don't know. 0-4 now. Vikings moved to 1-3. they avoid the 0-4 start as they try to stay alive in a playoff hunt. Kirk Cousins, 12 of 19, 139, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks, 2 sacks in the game. Madison had 17 rushes for 95 yards. Pretty good. And Akers also had 5 for 40 yards on the ground as well. So, Justin Jefferson, 6 catches for 85 yards to lead Minnesota. Carolina, Bryce Young, the rookie, 25 of 32, 204 yards. He was sacked 5 times, though. So that's that. Adam Thielen, the leading receiver for Carolina, 7 for 76 yards on 8 targets. So Carolina, not a good team. Minnesota, pretty good on the win. Next, we got the game of the week by many. At least going into the week. This was supposed to be the game of the week. Miami Dolphins, who had 70 points the previous week, went up to Buffalo. This ain't Miami. They got a rude awakening when they went up to Buffalo. Different atmosphere as the Bills rout their division rival 48-20 and take a first place in the AFC East. Right now, Miami thought they was going to go up to Orchard Park and continue that, sensation speed of offense. But the Buffalo Bills got very physical with the Miami Dolphins receivers. It seemed like if you get physical with those receivers, they're not really big guys. They're kind of fast and small. You can really rattle them. And while we've seen that for the most part. Tua Tagovailoa, 25 of 32, 282 yards, 1 touchdown. He was sacked 4 times in the game. And this kid, Tyreek Hill, 1 catch. Oh, excuse me. Not 1 catch. 3 catches for 58 yards for Tyreek Hill. So the Bills secondary did a solid job not allowing big plays for the most part. For a lot of big plays from like the guys like Hill and Waddle. Right? Hill only had 3 catches. And Waddle only had 4 catches. So that's basically how you want to do it. You want to make the others beat you. And they tried it, but it didn't work. So it looks like the Bills' strategy was allow them to run, which the Dolphins did run, right? This Devon Achane kid who he's been pretty well. I mean, last week he had 200 yards. This week he had 100 yards. So last 2 weeks, this guy's been unbelievable. He's had 26 carries for 304 yards in his last 2 weeks on 4 touchdowns. Let me repeat that. 26 carries for 304 yards and 4 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks. And also 7 carries for 39 yards. 7 catches for 39 yards and 2 touchdowns. So the last 2 weeks, this Devon Achane kid is putting up crazy numbers. If you got him in fantasy, he's putting up Madden numbers in the last 2 weeks combined. 26 rushes. 26 rushes. 26 rushes on 304 yards. 4 touchdowns. Adding 7 catches for 39 yards and 2 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks. Most running backs couldn't get that in a half a season. So, pretty impressive, if you ask me. So, you got to give the guy props. I hate the Dolphins. I hate them. But this kid has been good for the last 2 weeks. Is he a kid? Yeah, he's 21 years old out of Missouri City, Texas. Went to Texas A&M. So you see a lot of young players in this league today are being productive very quickly, very fast. as this guy looks to command the starting running back spot for good. But Buffalo, they did their job. They said, look, we let the guy run around, but the receivers won't get much. And Josh Allen for the Bills on offense, 21-25, 320 yards, 4 touchdowns, sacked twice. He had 4 carries for 17 yards. And people are saying he's now the leader of the MVP discussion. I think Christian McCaffrey may have something to say about that. But we know quarterbacks are always going to be the favorites in these conversations. But I don't know if Josh Allen is the favorite. I'm not going to do MVP yet. I'll probably wait till after week 5 to start, going over who's the MVP, who's the leader. We'll say that for after week 5. We'll do a week 5 recap. We'll do MVP, stuff like that. But that's a name that's floated around in many sports discussions across the country. Not much else from the run game for Buffalo, though. They didn't really do much on the ground. But the receiving core, Stephon Diggs, 6 catches for 120 yards, 3 touchdowns. He was just unbelievable. The Diggs and Allen connection, they seem to be getting it going. They might be taking off. Let's hope not. Let's hope not. Let's hope not. But that's that. So Buffalo, the Bills might be the best team in the AFC right now. Some people say Bills are the best team in football. I'll give them AFC right now. AFC not looking that great, to be honest. I thought they would be the superior conference right now. Things are very slow. The Chiefs are still pretty good. They did struggle with the Jets. But if I had to give an edge, I would still slightly give the Chiefs the edge by just a hair. But the Bills are right there. Because that Bills defense has definitely stepped up. And it's been built over time. It's been built over years, right? This is not like out of nowhere. They've been building it and building it. So they've been stepping up. Miami's still pretty good. Miami's definitely, if they're not, they might be number 3 still. They might be number 3 in the AFC right now, as far as like good, really good teams. So let's move on to the Denver Donkeys and the Chicago Bears. Now this game pissed me off. This is very frustrating. It's almost like, what is going on with Chicago? Chicago's now 0-4. And this doesn't look good for Chicago, and I'll tell you why. This is a bad loss for the Bears at home. And I'll tell you why it's a bad loss. At one point, Justin Fields, right? Justin Fields. He went 28 of 35 for 335 yards. 4 touchdowns. Right? Now, he was sacked 4 times. I get it. He was sacked 4 times. Fumble loss. The key fumble in the game. But let's go back for a second. At one point, I think he was like 20. Let me see something real quick. He outplayed Russell Wilson for like most of this game. Right? He was outplayed. He was playing well. The guy was playing great. And then he had the fumble. But when your quarterback puts up those numbers, you go 6 for 12 on 3rd downs. You rush for 171 yards. How the hell do you lose the game? You had 160 more yards than Denver. How do you lose the game? Turnovers. Right? That's how. One mistake can change the momentum. One. And we see a lost fumble by Justin Fields. Right? An interception. So 2 turnovers. That's how you lose. Denver, while they were trailing, they never felt like they were out of the game. But this is not a good look for Chicago. You put up 21 in the second quarter. You take a 21-7 lead at halftime, right? You still got the lead, but then you allow 17 points in the fourth quarter. It's just unacceptable. And I don't know if Justin Fields is going to play a better game than he played this past Sunday. Are you going to see that for the rest of the year? You thought that the Bears knew we're 0-3, we got to win this game, and then you flat out lose. And what kind of receiving core does the Bears have? DJ Moore, 8 catches for 131 yards. He is not a number one receiver, obviously, but the Bears thought bringing him in would be a good look. Now, how about the situation with Chase Claypool, who they thought would be a big-time target? He hasn't panned out as well. So there's a bunch of issues here on offense for Chicago, despite the fact that Fields did have a pretty good game. Besides the fumble and the one pick. Denver got the win after getting blown out to Miami. The Donkeys, I'm not going to say they saved their season, but they did get a win that they had to get, right? So they wouldn't go 0-4. I still think their season is over. I think I called that last week. But to come back and get this victory, I guess it's pretty impressive for Denver to do that. Their defense did make a big play. They made plays, but Denver's not out of the woods yet, people. Denver still got a lot of issues going on. They beat up the Bears, who are now 0-4. I think Denver is still not a good team. They just got a victory. They feasted on the Bears, who are God knows what they're doing. But so Denver gets the victory there. Let's move on. The Baltimore Ravens, they what did they do? They went out to Cleveland and they beat the Browns. Now the Ravens were underdogs on our list. They were plus 2.5. We took them. We figured that Baltimore would go into Cleveland and win, and they did. Lamar Jackson, 4 touchdowns as the Ravens rolled over the Browns with rookie quarterback Thompson Robinson. Got the start, or got the playing time to start for Cleveland. Thompson Robinson, 4 sacks. He was sacked 4 times. He threw 3 picks. He just was out of his element. He was playing above his pay grade for sure. Jerome Ford, 9 rushes for 26 yards. Remember, Jerome Ford was solid over the last few weeks. Well, not really last week, but the second week of the season against Pittsburgh, he had 16 for 106. Ever since, he really hasn't done much, right? Last Tennessee, 1.8 yard per carry on 10 rushes, and then last week, 9 for 26. So he's been like pretty much a one-hit wonder as they try to figure out who's going to be the running back for Nick Chubb, who's out. They brought in Kareem Hunt, but he hasn't gotten going yet. We don't know if he will get going. Kareem Hunt used to be a solid back in the NFL. Will he return to form? We don't know. So far, Kareem Hunt, since returning to Cleveland, since signing with Cleveland, he's only had 10 rushes for 25 yards. So he hasn't done anything significant for this offense. Pierre Strong, who also got some catches, some rushes, 5 for 49 yards. So he did what he can do when he got the ball. So maybe he'll see more touches next week. But overall, this game, Amari Cooper, 1 catch for 16 yards. After having 7 the previous week. How do you go from 7 grabs to 1? Something's not right. Now, a rookie quarterback probably doesn't understand how to get the ball to your best receiver. Maybe he'll figure it out next week if he plays. Lamar Jackson for the Ravens, 15 and 19. God damn it. Get out of here. Freaking gnat. 15 and 19, 186 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 sacks, 9 carries for 23 yards on the day. Mark Andrews, 5 for 80 on 5 targets. So he caught everything that went his way. He also had 2 touchdowns. Zay Flowers, 3 for 56 on 4 targets. So that was just enough for the Ravens to beat the Browns. Now, Ravens are now 3-1, first place in the AFC North. So we'll see how that goes. Ravens, in this game, they were missing 2 receivers and a starting tackle. So we'll see. And they still got the win. Cleveland's not a good team. I told you guys that. Next, let's talk Steelers. Pittsburgh Steelers. If we can find that. Where are the Steelers at? Oh, boy. Am I going blind? I can't see the Steelers game. Oh, boy. Steelers. What the heck? Wow. Steelers. Oh, there you go. Yeah, I'm going blind. I can't even see it. Steelers and Texans. Houston Texans blows out the Steelers. I mean, what the heck was this? Texans are now 2-2. This is a team that should be tanking. Instead, they're winning games and winning them big. Oh, man. What's going on with Mike Tomlin and the Steelers? Kenny Pickett, 15 to 23, 114 yards, a pick. C.J. Stroud, 16 of 30 for 306 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no interceptions. So, the Stroud kid is playing well, at least this week. Now, Pickett did get hurt and end up going to Mitchell Trubisky, who came in later in the game. So, we don't know what's the status for Pickett, a knee injury, and he's expected to practice. Well, he was practicing today. We don't know if he actually practiced, but he had a bone bruise in his knee. So I don't know if he practiced or not. I guess you Steeler insiders, you can give me updates on that, or we'll find out by Thursday. But not a good look for Pittsburgh as things are falling apart. So that's that. It's not much to go over here for Houston or Pittsburgh, to be honest. How about Nico Collins? 7 receptions for 168 yards and 2 touchdowns. Big day for the 24-year-old out of Birmingham, Alabama. 6'4". This guy's 6'4" wide receiver, 215 pounds. Went to Michigan, so went to a big-time school. The kid has size. He was beating Pittsburgh all night, it seemed. And these young players are really putting up some huge numbers early on. Right? It's not your usual guys that are dominating early on in the season, whether it be the running back or wide receivers. These names are young players, guys who are finally getting some time. Whether they're on bad teams or good teams or mediocre teams, they're performing. And some of these guys are going to be pretty good steals for fantasy, you know? Yeah. Let me see what he's done this year. Let me look at his stats for this season, though, real quick before we move on. Is he a fantasy pickup guy? Is he worth picking up in fantasy? Let me see. He might already be picked up. Let me see. Where is it? Nico Collins, game info. He had a couple big games. Versus Indy at 7 for 146 and a touchdown. At Baltimore, 6 for 80. You know, so since since September 10th, which was week 1, he's had a pretty good year. Yeah, he's been pretty good. So, yeah. I'm pretty sure he's going to be getting picked up in fantasy, especially if C.J. Stroud continues to play better. Stroud's been 240 yards, 384 yards, 280 yards, 306 yards. So a lot of yardage is going to be there are a lot of yards to get. That 103 QB rating in the last 3 weeks. So he's trending up. So we'll see how that moves for the Houston Texans. I don't think he's the best offensive rookie though. I still think Bijan Robinson is better. Has been better. Let me see. Let's move on. This game was crazy. If you guys watched this one, the Raiders and the Chargers defensively was unbelievable. Khalil Mack had 6 sacks in the game, set a franchise single game record, and for the 6 sacks. Can you believe that? Unfreaking believable. Unbelievable. O'Connell was sacked 7 times. He got the start. He's a rookie, Aiden O'Connell. And he was sacked 6 times by Khalil Mack. They were just feasting. They saw that rookie. They was like, oh, we're going to get him. And remember, Khalil Mack was traded to the Raiders a few years back in that crazy heist or swap of draft picks and stuff that went to, I believe, Chicago. So that was a crazy deal. Then they ended up losing him. So it didn't really pan out. They thought that was going to be a missing piece, get the Raiders to the Super Bowl. Didn't turn out that way. And he came back to his former team and destroyed them. As a member of the LA Chargers, a division rival. So, but Josh Jacobs did try. He tried to do the best he could, right? He had rushing yards, 17 for 56, a touchdown, and as a receiver, he went 8 for 81 yards on 11 targets. So he saw the ball a lot. He touched the ball a lot in this game. Devontae Adams, 8 receptions for 75 yards. Jacoby Myers, a free agent acquisition at the wide receiver, 2 catches for 33 yards. So hasn't really gotten it going yet, Jacoby Myers, in this Oakland Raiders offense. Now, last 2 weeks prior, he did have 7 catches and 9 catches. But so not much consistency going so far. Now, Jimmy Garoppolo's out, so that might be a difference. When you have a rookie quarterback that is getting sacked 7 times, he's a little bit nervous. Maybe the offensive line needs to get better. Justin Herbert, not the greatest game. 13 to 24, 167 yards, 2 sacks, a touchdown, and a pick. He also rushed for 12 times for 27 yards. And in that game, not Herbert's best game, but it was enough to get the Chargers the victory as they won 24-17. Khalil Mack, 6 sacks. It was tied for a single game record, we said. Also, the 5th player in NFL history to record 6 sacks in a game. So, shout out to Khalil Mack for that. Next up, Patriots. They went out to Dallas and got mopped, destroyed. The Dallas defense was all over the Patriots as they couldn't do anything. As Dak Prescott, he's just starting to get used to sitting back and watching the Dallas Cowboy defense carry him to victory. And that's exactly what's happening because Dak is not great at all. He ain't that impressive. He played pretty well, but he was sacked 3 times. He wasn't great. He wasn't all that. The Dallas defense carried the way. But what's going on with New England? We talked about this. I talked about this a couple weeks back. I said the Patriots need to find a way to establish the run. Oh, they're not going to win any games. And once again, they did not establish a run. They couldn't. Now, it was against Dallas, Michael Parsons, and the Dallas Cowboy defense, but they were not able to get anything going. Ezekiel Elliott, 6 carries for 16 yards, and Stevenson, 14 for 30 yards. So nothing on the ground for New England. Things got so bad for Mac Jones, who was threw 2 interceptions, and one was a terrible throw. I mean, this guy was falling on the other side of the field, throws off the back foot across the field, which is a cardinal sin in the NFL. You never throw those kind of passes, but Mac did. And I'm starting to get a little annoyed with Mac Jones. Look, the offensive line might be the biggest issue here as far as Mac not having time to get the ball out. And to be fair, to be a little fair here, he one, I don't think they're utilizing the tight ends as much as they should, right? Because that's your security blanket, especially when your line collapse. Hunter Henry, 5 targets, 4 catches, 51 yards. But the receivers are not getting open quick enough. They don't have that first burst of speed. Typically, when these receivers do catch the ball, they typically wide open, and you're not going to be wide open a lot in the NFL. So it seems like these guys are not getting off the line quick enough. We have to look at the film and see the outer film. I don't know what they're looking at. Maybe they see something different, but I have to assume that these guys are not getting open quick enough. A combination of that and the O-line collapsing very quickly. But let's face it, the Patriots, right? To play a little devil's advocate, the Patriots have played some really good front sevens early on, right? They played, and it's not going to get better because the Saints are pretty solid up front too. They can get to the quarterback, at least previous weeks they have. Cowboys were pretty good front seven. They had the trying to see the schedule. What the hell? Sorry. Schedule. There we go. So they had week on the 24th, I think it was last week, they had the Jets, right? Jets had a pretty good up front. I mean, the Patriots still won the game because the Jets don't have any offense. They don't have a quarterback. But you can very well make the case that if the Jets would have had a quarterback, they probably beat the Pats in that, just being honest. Then they had the Dolphins, right? And then the Eagles. So you're looking at, and then the Cowboys. So they've had teams that are pretty good at defending the run to some extent. And the Saints are coming up, and they are pretty solid at that too. So this is going to get ugly. This could get really ugly for New England really quickly if they don't step up. With the Saints, and then they got the Raiders, Bills, and Dolphins all in October. October is going to be a long month for New England, as they might not. It's a very good chance they could probably, if they don't beat the Saints at home, they got to go to Vegas to take on the Raiders, and then they got Buffalo and Miami to close out October. This could be the season. If they, these next 4 games, they already lost the first one of the 5 to the Cowboys. If they got to win, they got to go at least 2-2 in the next 4. I say 3-1, but anything worse than 2-2, the season's over. Especially if you lose to the Bills and Dolphins, because those are division games, and you fall in that, you're already down. Well, you got the Jets, you beat the Jets, so you're good in that. And you're 1-1 right now in the division, but if you somehow lose both division games back to back, Bills and Dolphins, you'd be 1-3, and then it's going to be hard to come back from that. So if I'm New England, I would shoot for 3-1. They need to beat the Saints, beat the Raiders, and steal one of the Bills and Dolphins. They're probably not going to go out. I don't think they're going to go down to Miami and beat the Dolphins. So the Bills at home would be your best shot. But the Bills are playing well right now. So I don't know. It's going to get ugly for New England. this is going to be the month to determine if the Patriots are going to still be in playoff contention or not. This is going to be the month. This next 4 games is going to determine that. Because honestly, it's not. I don't think we really expected the Patriots to go into Dallas and win that game. We probably figured, even in the best case scenario, the Pats would lose that game. But they got beat badly. This is probably the worst loss under Bill Belichick ever. And the team looked terrible. They looked bad. Like, it's one thing to lose a game. You're like, okay, we lost. But you look like shit in the process. And let's go over this game real quick. No run game going on there. The receiving core, they're not getting open. Or they can't get open because the O-line is collapsed. And then people like to talk about Mac Jones' terrible arm and stuff like that. Look, I don't know what's going on. I guess they'll fix it. It's still early. So we'll give them a chance. But, yeah. But the defense, New England's defense, let me see what happened here in this matchup. So we talk about, third downs, 4 for 13 for the Patriots. 0-2 on fourth downs. Rushing yards, 53 on the ground. You're not going to win anything in that. And you can't pass the ball. You get sacked 3 times, 28 yards. I mean, what are you going to do? You turn the ball over, you're going to lose. Turn the ball over against a great team, you're going to get blown out. That's just how it goes. And the penalties, too. 6 penalties for 50 yards. Come on, like discipline, penalties. And the penalty is probably because of the holding, right? You can't hold because you can't stop the defensive line for Dallas. So let's see any cliff notes here on this loss. Yeah, Mac Jones was responsible for all 3 turnovers, and he was pulled in the second half for Zach Bailey, who wasn't any better. I mean, Bailey Zapp, excuse me. Bailey Zapp is not a great quarterback either. So Mac will probably get back in again. But the clock is ticking on Mac Jones, guys. And look, I'm fully behind Mac, and coming into the year, I had my little stuff online. I thought, Paige is gonna do well, Mac is gonna step up. And realistically, the clock is ticking because it's coming up on that time where you're gonna have to make a decision on whether you bring him back, you give him the max deal, like the rookie contract extension, whatever. I think this is gonna be Mac's last year. And this is why I thought he would have a great year, because he knows that this could be it. This could be it for him. And if he doesn't do well here, I don't see where he goes anywhere else. He's going to be a career backup quarterback. He has to get it right. And there's still a lot of games left, a lot of time for him to improve. But the clock is ticking. And you can see Bill's face on the sideline. He's like, God. Bill's working with him, but, and it's unfortunate because Mac has played with different coordinators, different offensive schemes for his first couple of years, different weapons. It's unfortunate that he hasn't really had that stability to really improve from his first rookie year. But this is NFL, right? The trend, the tide, it moves quick. You either get on board, you're on the train, or the league is going to move on without you. It's not fair, right? You could say Mac has not really been given a fair shake, right? People say Cam Newton didn't get a fair shake because, they got the 1 year he got hurt. He should have, you know what I'm saying? It's not fair. The NFL is not fair. So, and especially for younger QBs, you're not going to get that much time. You don't get time. You don't get that much time. So Mac he's been getting time. He's been given time, but he's not going to get that much time. I'm just telling you guys. Even last year, people were trying to run Mac out. People in the Patriot fans were saying it's time for Mac to go and put in Bailey Zapp. But Bailey Zapp is not the answer either. So that's why Mac came back in. Bill knows that. They know that because they thought Bailey Zapp was the answer. They would already put him in. he would have already took the job, right? Just like how Brock Purdy took the job from Jimmy G. Jimmy goes down, and Brock Purdy plays. He's good. They like him. They keep him. They get rid of Trey Lance. So when a young QB is good and they think he's good, they'll replace him. Trust me. I think Bill Belichick would have no problem. He would have had no problem replacing Mac with Bailey Zapp if he thought Bailey Zapp was it. Right? This is a guy who gave the job, allowed Tom Brady to take the job from Drew Bledsoe. And if you remember, Bledsoe wasn't, as the Patriots were building on that defense and becoming ready to win, but Bledsoe wasn't bad. He was still a pretty solid quarterback. I think he was still a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback even when he went to Buffalo, when he left New England. And remember, he stepped in when Brady got hurt. He started the AFC Championship game, and then they went back to Brady, said, you start the Super Bowl. Bledsoe was still a pretty good quarterback. But when Belichick, he knew Brady, this is Brady's time. Brady's good. Brady's legit. So I think that if Belichick moved on from Bledsoe that quickly, Bledsoe's way better than Mac Jones. If he would replace Mac Jones if he thought Bailey Zapp was the guy, and he's not. So, and even if you think Zappy's maybe a little bit better, he's not enough to where you replace Mac Jones, right? You got to outright win that. Like Bailey Zapp needs to go in there and outright take the job if he's that good. He's just not, right? He's just not that good. So that's the mindset. And I thought Ezekiel Elliott would have a bigger game because he would go up against his former team. I remember earlier in the week there were talks about Ezekiel Elliott may give up signals and all that other BS they were trying to start, but that turned out to be a bunch of nothing. This is the third straight year that the Patriots started 1-3 with Mac Jones as a starter. Belichick said we are a lot better than what we showed. Need to do better playing. Need to do a better job playing, coaching. Not much to say. So that's that. Low point. Previous worst loss included playoffs. 31-0 to Buffalo. So Belichick did not get his 300 win. He will look to get that next week against the Saints. Cowboys are now 9-1 against the Patriots when facing quarterbacks not named Tom Brady. Brady dominated the Cowboys. He was 5-0 against the Cowboys. So Cowboys victories, all three victories have been blowouts, average margin of victory 32 points. So when the Cowboys do win, they win big. Patriots got the Saints at home on Sunday. The Cowgirls will go out to San Francisco. So Cowgirls and 49ers, that's going to be a big one. That might be the game of the year. I think the San Francisco is better, but we'll see. Can Dallas's front seven stop C-Mac and the 49ers? We'll find out. So let's move on because we should be getting out of here pretty soon. Arizona Cardinals, after that impressive game last week against the Cowgirls, they got a wake-up call against the 49ers. 49ers moved to 4-0, 35-16 over the Cardinals. Christian McCaffrey had 4 touchdowns in the game. 4 touchdowns for C-Mac, the best offensive player in football right now, and I don't think it's even close. You could correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. Who do you think is the best offensive player in football? Christian McCaffrey, 4 touchdowns. 49ers have now won their 14th straight regular season game. 14 in a row. They're on a heck of a streak. McCaffrey has 177 yards on the ground. From scrimmage, 3 runs and 1 catch. And he also broke Jerry Rice's franchise record by scoring a touchdown in his 13th straight game, including the playoffs. So this guy's not only scoring touchdowns, he's making history in a 49er uniform. And remember, he's only been a 49er for a short period of time. It's not like he's been there for a lot of years. He's already broke Jerry Rice's franchise record. Pretty impressive. Brock Purdy went 20 of 21 for 283 yards and a touchdown run and pass. He set the 49ers franchise record for completion percentage in a game. He's won for the 9th time in his 9 career regular season starts, leading the 7. So he has not lost a game as a starter. He was leading the 49ers to their 4th straight game with at least 30 points to open the season. So this guy has been unbelievable. So Josh Dobbs, 265 yards for the Arizona Cardinals to lead the Cardinals. But they had no answer for McCaffrey. No answer. McCaffrey became the first player in 9 years to start the season with 4 straight games with at least 100 yards from scrimmage and a touchdown. I mean, you cannot stop Christian McCaffrey. McCaffrey did have a chance for the franchise record, but Kyle Shanahan called for a run to fullback Juszczyk instead. So maybe they were trying to preserve the franchise record for the franchise's best player. But McCaffrey did break Jerry Rice's franchise record by scoring a touchdown in 13 straight games, including the playoffs. He's the first player in NFL to do that since Arian Foster had a 13-game streak for Houston in 2011 to 2012. McCaffrey is 2 shy of the record since the merger held by John Riggins and O.J. Simpson. He also became the 4th 49er player since 1991 to score 3 touchdowns in the first half, joining Jerry Rice, Ricky Watters, and Tevin Coleman. So that's that. Up next for the Cardinals, they will host the Cincinnati Bengals on Sunday, and the 49ers will host the Dallas Cowgirls. That's going to be the game of the year. We're looking forward to that. We are looking forward to that one. Get your popcorn ready. Sunday night was Kansas City. They went out to MetLife. Kansas City and the Taylor Swifties. Okay, maybe I shouldn't mention that. I don't care about Taylor Swift. But Sunday Night Football does. They couldn't stop talking about her. Even in a close game, Chris Collinsworth was drooling over Taylor Swift. Chiefs 23-20 in a close one. Now, a couple bad calls in this game that I noticed. And it could have been more, but the 2 that I seen was the safety call that gave the Jets 2 points, and there was another play that went against the Chiefs that was just complete awful calls. So the referees were not on their best behavior Sunday night on prime time. But Jets fall to 1-3. They're now last in the AFC East. And the Chiefs are first in the AFC West. And so Patrick Mahomes hold off the late rally from the Jets. Jets were coming back in that game because of the referees. But Mahomes did throw a couple, he had a couple of mistakes in the game. Let's see, any cliff notes. Patrick Mahomes threw for his 200th touchdown pass of the year, reaching that milestone in his 84th game to break Dan Marino's NFL record when he connected with Noah Gray on a 34-yard score with about 3:24 left in the first quarter. So he did it pretty quickly. So good for Patrick Mahomes. in his history. Also, Mahomes became the fastest to 200 NFL touchdown passes. Oh, we just mentioned that. He also ran for 51 yards to set a franchise rushing mark for a quarterback. Isaiah Pacheco, the New Jersey kid, rushed for 115 yards and a touchdown on 20 carries in front of his hometown crowd, or home state, in his home state, excuse me. Andy Reid tied Tom Landry for fourth on the career list with 250 regular season victories. So how about that? Andy Reid's got 250. Belichick's got 299. So even Belichick's still way ahead of Andy Reid. Seasons ahead of Andy Reid. I don't know if he's going to catch him. So a couple of history milestones in this game for the Chiefs. See anything else? Joe Klecko received his Pro Hall of Fame ring of excellence during the halftime ceremony. Former Jets star defensive lineman, Klecko also served as the Jets' honorary captain for the pregame coin toss and was inducted to the Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio in August. He played for the Jets from 1977 to 1987 and was the heart of the team's New York Sack Exchange. Remember those days? Joe Klecko. Next up for the Chiefs, they head out to Minnesota to take on the Vikings, and the Jets will head to Denver to take on the Donkeys on Sunday. So we'll see what happens in that one. And last but not least, that Monday nighter between the Seattle Sea Chickens and the New York Giants. Sea Chickens go into MetLife 24-3 over the Giants. Rookie Devin Weatherspoon had a 97-yard pick six to lead Seattle's defense. The Giants are not a good team. I told you guys that. They calling this the new Legion of Boom in Seattle. I don't know if it's a new Legion of Boom or just like the Giants just not a good team. That might be more so of it, okay? But the Sea Chickens are 3-1 now. They're right behind the 49ers in number 2 in the NFC. But how about Geno Smith coming back to MetLife, 13-20, 110 yards, 1 touchdown, no picks. He was sacked twice. Drew Lock came in the game as well, as Geno Smith did hurt his knee. So Drew Lock came in. Remember, Drew Lock was part of the deal, the trade that sent Russell Wilson over to Denver. Kenneth Walker, 17 for 79 on the ground and 1 touchdown. And the Giants, not a good team. Daniel Jones, 27-34, 203 yards, 2 interceptions. The guy was sacked 10 times. Jesus Christ. He did have 10 carries for 66 yards, but when you sack 10 times, 2 fumbles, 1 loss, he played like donkey shit. And between Daniel Jones and Zach Wilson, who's the worst quarterback in New York? No. Tune in to 98.7 ESPN to find out. The fans will let you know. But Matt Breida, 5 receptions for 48 yards to lead the New York Giants. And there were high hopes for the New York fan base this year from the Jets and Giants, right? Coming into the offseason, they thought that they were going to have a pretty good year. I mean, we know what happened with the Jets. Aaron Rodgers went down, and that's all she wrote. But the New York Giants, people really thought that they were going to have a pretty good year. It don't look like it so far, as Giants are now 1-3 on the season. And yeah. So we'll see what happens moving forward for the New York Giants. they gave Daniel Jones that money, and it's not panning out the way they've hoped. Let's see. Any cliff notes here? Yeah, this is the second time this year that the Giants have gotten stomped out at home, or at least play like crap at home. Remember the week 1 blowout to the Dallas Cowgirls? And we thought, oh, maybe Dallas is just that good. No, Dallas was good, but Giants are bad. Coach Brian Dable said, no excuses. We didn't get the job done. Yeah, we saw. We got eyes. Safety Jamal Adams sustained a concussion on the opening series after being hit in the helmet while attempting to tackle Daniel Jones. Adams was playing in the first game since tearing his quadriceps in the 2022 opener. So Jamal Adams hurt again. At least a concussion. We don't know if he's hurt. Just a concussion. Seattle, following a bye week, they'll take on Cincinnati October 15th. So Seattle now on a bye week, and the Giants head to Miami, take on the Dolphins. Good luck with that one. That might be the biggest blowout of the day. I think Dolphins, that speedy offense, and the Giants not good at all. That could be a blowout. I don't know what that line is. I would bet, if I had to guess, Dolphins are probably going to have at least 7-point spread there. At least 7 to 8. Somewhere between 7.5 and 8 would be my guess. Let me see if I can find it. I'll find it right now. For that game, let me see. The October 10th. 7.5 to 8. Oh, we got some NBA action. Oh, we'll talk about that later. Shit. Excuse me. Oh, shit. It's 11. Wow. It is the biggest spread of the week, too. So I was right about that. 11-point spread for the Dolphins. Ooh. That's going to be we're going to go over that on tomorrow or Thursday with the NFL picks. Tune into GridironSteady for that. We'll be having our week 5 picks. Gee, 11-point spread. Did not see that one. I thought it was going to be like 8 or 9. 7, 8, or 9, but that's going to be tempted. I'm going to be tempted on that. All right, so this week 4 recap is in the books, guys. And don't forget, let us know what you think was the surprise of the week. Right now, the San Francisco 49ers look like the best team in the NFC. Maybe the best team in football. The Eagles are right there, of course, and you got Dallas. So those 3 teams in the NFC might be the 3 best teams in football. You know, the AFC got Kansas City, you got Buffalo, Miami's pretty good. So overall, to recap this up real quick, I think that there are some issues with some teams. I think New England's got some problems. They need to get fixed. And the question is going to be: has the time come and passed for Bill Belichick to maybe retire, or is he too stubborn to understand that the times are now changed in the NFL, and what he used to rely on is not going to work? Maybe, I don't know. I say no, but it is a conversation that is worth having, especially if you are in the Patriot front office or ownership. And if you're a Patriot fan, maybe you can have that conversation. I know it's hard to mention that because it's almost like a cult, right? It's like, people, football fan bases sometimes are very cultish. People like to live on the past, right? Someone does something great in the past, you don't want to believe that they can fall off. But you can have these conversations, right? You can start to think, hey, maybe it's time to consider other options. I'm not saying that's the case with Bill Belichick. I'm just saying that Belichick may need to consider other options as far as the way he's building this team up from the offensive side of the ball, because they're not performing. And I don't know what to say. But that's something to keep an eye out throughout the season. We'll see how the rest of October plans out. Also, Cincinnati could be in trouble. The Joe Burrow situation could be a lot worse than we think. They lost T. Higgins as well. The Bengals could be in trouble. And this opens the door for the likes of Buffalo. I think that Buffalo is taking advantage of the Bengals not being good. They're taking advantage of the Jaguars struggling, who we thought would be a really good team. And the Chargers, who are also not that consistently good. They're doing enough to win games, but I thought they would be a lot closer to Kansas City this year in that AFC West. They're not showing it so far. I think Kansas City is still showing that they are the best team in the AFC. And it's a bit of a gap, but I think Buffalo is closing in because they have seized on the opportunity. And we'll see if the Bills can stay with the Chiefs. Now, some people out there got the Bills automatically as the best team because last week after Miami beat Denver, Miami was supposedly the best team. So the Bills now beat Miami. So this is how it goes. Like, this team beat that team, this team beat that team. I don't think that the Bills beating Miami, a division game this week, proves that now the Bills are better than everybody. No, because I don't think Miami was the best team. I think Miami beat up on Denver, who sucks. That's how I look at it. I think the common theme here was that Denver sucks. And they got caught slipping in Miami. And Miami beat the crap out of them at home. Remember what I said this last week? I said, look, that Miami game is a one win. You don't get 5 wins for the blowout. Doesn't matter if you score 70 points, you win by 10, 20, 30, or 50. It's still one win. And it doesn't mean that the Dolphins were the best team because they still wasn't better than Kansas City. So I still think Kansas City is slightly the best team, and Buffalo is probably number 2 in the AFC. And Miami is somewhere 3 in that range, and then you can flip a coin for the rest. But it's clear in the NFC that it's San Francisco right now with Philly and Dallas. Now, Dallas is 3rd, but Philly's right there, number 2. But San Francisco is a clear-cut number 1. So we got to give them props for that. And Christian McCaffrey is the best offensive player in football. And it's not even close. That's it for Gridiron Study Week 4 recap. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Also, don't forget to join us on Thursday or sometime Wednesday or Thursday. We will have NFL Week 4, Week 5 picks against the spread. And also follow us on social media, on Twitter, at GridironSteady, on X. I got to change the logo. It's not Twitter no more. It's X. I understand that. At SportsSteady on Instagram and Facebook at SportsSteady TV. Sports page run by sports fans. Peace.